Yeah, thank you for doing this, being my guinea pig as I figure this stuff out and kind of figure these conversations out. But the point of it is, I know we talked, is really to kind of hear more of your story. I feel like
Okay.
the word journey is overused, but your journey as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. I mean, I know you have a couple businesses,
hmm
but just trying to get to know why you wanted to be a business owner, what spurred that, what makes you not want to be a business owner sometimes, so on and so forth. So I guess I think one of the questions I really liked out of all of these was the one about when you were a kid. Like did you have, when you think back to being a kid, did you ever play business owner? Did you ever run a business out of your house or your backyard or like a lemonade stand, right? Did you ever do anything like that?
Yeah, actually I did. Well, I suppose it wasn't like I didn't run it out of my lemonade stand or anything like that. But when I was 11, I started working for a strawberry farm around the corner from me, picking strawberries just so I could earn money. So my granddad was an entrepreneur, and so was my mom. And so I guess it's just was kind of like instilled in me as a kid, like just good work ethic. And it started when I was really little.
Okay. So that was kind of like your first job too.
That
Where
was
else did you work when you were young?
That was my first job, and I also always worked with my mum and my granddad during the summers. So I'd like go into the office and I would do office stuff for them. And then what else? I started babysitting when I was really young. And like just kind of and doing chores around the house as well. I always charged my granddad for doing chores.
I feel like I wish more kids need to take that, right? We take the reverse approach. It's like, hey, you want allowance? We'll do some work. Whereas kids need to start learning, like, hey, you need to get some stuff done around the house. Maybe I'll do it if you throw me a few bucks here and there. And maybe that's the entrepreneurial mindset that a lot of kids don't have. So what did you said you worked for your grandparents? What was their business?
He was actually an insurance agent. He
Oh,
worked in life insurance. I was
that wasn't
doing
planned.
I was doing he would have me give all of the information, and then I'd put all the information into this, computer program, and then it would generate their estimates.
How funny. I didn't know
Yeah.
you had experience in that. We'll have to talk about that later.
Many,
That's
many
funny.
years ago.
That's crazy. So did he own his business?
He did. He owned his business. My granddad was always an entrepreneur. So he started off in the fertilizer business back in Ireland, and he was in that for years, long, long before I was born. And then him and my granny was a chef. They bought a hotel in the 70s, and then they lost it during a recession. And then he went into insurance after that. So he worked for, it was the farmers insurance agency back home, where they were, because obviously agriculture is huge back in Ireland. And so that's how he ended up in the insurance business. And then my aunt started working for him. So kind of, I guess it became a family business in a weird way, but it stopped with my aunt. No one else has gone into it.
Well, that's cool. I mean, so is that your grandparents, those memories, is that your first exposure that you remember to business owners and to people who ran their own days, I guess?
Yeah, my dad was he was actually a business owner as well. He always owned his own business. From what I can remember, I think he worked for a couple of people in between, but for the most part, he ended up running his own business, and he sold office supplies and office furniture. And I remember my mum as a kid, she worked in banking, and actually she ended up in life insurance through the bank as well back at home. And so I just always remember going into work. And so I was always I was always around people working, or I was always brought to work. And so it wasn't something, it was always something that I was aware of, I guess.
Okay, cool. So then I guess fast forwarding to being an adult, I mean, what was your first business? I know you've had a couple or currently have a couple.
Yeah, my first business was the glass blowing studio and the gallery, and kind of how that came about. I went to school for design, so I have a bachelor's in design. And art school back at home in Ireland is very, very different to how they do art school here, which I learned because I came as an exchange student for a little while. And so as artists, we were kind of set up or told kind of at the beginning of our degree that you are going to be your own business. Like we're going to set you up to be independent contractors. And so even in art school, I had to go to business classes. I did an associate's degree in art, and we had to do marketing, promotions. We had to learn how to do books. We had to learn how to write grants. And then we did a graphic design class. So we were able to do all of our own graphics. And then even when I went in to do my undergrad, that kind of followed in through my undergrad, we had to do business classes as well. And so we were very much kind of being set up to then go forth and be our own person and be a business and kind of have the foundation of how to do that. So when I graduated from university and moved over to the United States, I kind of had thought about going to work for other artists. And then the opportunity came up to buy this gallery and hot shop in Eugene. And I was like, 24. I was like, yeah, I can do this. And so we ended up buying it, and we've had it ever since. It's been 14 years now. And so I kind of have taken a step back from that to go into a different career. So I had jobs in college to get me through college, but as soon as I graduated and, kind of went into my career, I've always owned my own business. I did stop, for a few years, and I went back and I kind of recalibrated, and I did more design stuff, and I ended up working for 2 other people, and I just really missed working for myself. So I was like, I'm just going to reopen the studio and go back to that.
Well, you just kind of just threw that out there, like, oh, there was a studio for sale, so we just decided to buy it. Like
Yeah.
we know, you and I both know it's not that simple. Take me through that story. Like, how did you find this? How did you hear about it? Did you have to take a big loan out? I mean, I'm buying, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I suppose being young, you kind of figure you can do anything, right? So,
Right, yeah.
when I came over to the States as a glassblower, jobs are few and far between. And so I kind of figured I was going to have to move to the Pacific Northwest. I wanted to move to the Pacific Northwest because that's where the center of glassblowing is in the United States. And I actually ended up going home back to Ireland, and I went to my college, and my college professor, my mentor, we kind of talked to her about, what would be the best move moving forward. And we really wanted to do an eco-friendly glass studio. And she said, it's just going to cost you a fortune. And glass equipment is so specialized. And so it's just so expensive to buy brand new. And she's like, I think you'd be really good working for yourself. And so I kind of got into that mindset. Okay, we're going to set up a studio. We're going to buy a studio. We're going to start a studio somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. And then she sent me a listing of this particular gallery and studio. And she's like, this is an absolute screaming deal. You should go and take a look at this. And we did. And it had been in business for 3 years. And so it wasn't like we were starting from scratch. We were kind of stepping in and taking over. So we came and saw the studio, and the previous owners were like, we'll hang around for like about 6 weeks, and we'll kind of show you the ropes, show you what to do. And so we were like, okay, it was for the price, it was really a great deal. So we were taking over the lease, and we were purchasing the majority of the equipment, and we couldn't get a loan. So we had no credit. I was a visa holder, and I bought it with my now ex-husband, but he had just come out of the military. And so none of that income is taxable. And so he had no credit. So luckily his dad was like, hey, I really want to help you guys. So he's like, I'll give you guys the loan. So he gave us the loan to buy the studio, and we went out and saw it. And we'd never been to Eugene before, never been to Oregon before. And we just fell in love with it. And we're like, okay, let's do it. We put a deposit down, and we moved out 6 weeks later, and we took over the studio.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, you must remember the first day you took it over, first day it was on your shoulders.
Yeah, it was actually Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th, 2012. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. So it was terrifying. It was terrifying. And, you just kind of think, I was young, and I was like, oh, this is just going to be so easy. Everything's going to run itself. And I learned pretty quickly that isn't how things work. So
What was your biggest, I guess we talked about this earlier. What was your biggest, oh no moment getting into your business?
Honestly, learning how to generate business. The studio, they had done a pretty good job of getting reviews on TripAdvisor. And so we had bought it, and we took over in April. And the summer was great because it's what we do. We would teach kiddos from 6 and up, and it's like a tourist thing here for blowing glass. And so we had tons of business during the summer. We're like, this is fantastic. really feeling good about ourselves. And then, it was busy-ish kind of October through December. And then January hit and there was nothing. And we just went, oh no. And then another thing that happened was we had our biggest and most expensive piece of equipment, which brand new was like $30,000. It broke and there was $18,000 worth of damage to it. And we did not have the money to fix it. Luckily, our insurance policy did cover it. But that was the main piece of equipment. Without that, we couldn't blow glass, we couldn't teach, we couldn't make money. And there was another studio in town and they were amazing. And they came over, the owner came over, and we're still really good friends actually. And he said, I've heard your furnace is down. And we're like, yeah. And he's like, look, I've got you. And he lent us a piece of equipment. He lent us a small furnace that helped keep us going. And it was at that moment I realized it takes a village to be able to do this, and just like reach out and ask for help. So our oh no moment really turned into a really big teaching moment pretty fast for us.
So when you hit that kind of, I guess, cliff, right? You hit that January and business kind of dried up. Was there a lesson in there? I know at some point in my business, I learned about like forecasting or cash flow forecasting, knowing that, when most of your income comes in might not line up when most of your bills are. Or how to make, especially if in the glass in the glass field, you have a busy season, how to make that money last year round.
Mm-hmm. Well, what we realized was we need an extra stream of income. And so, one thing I did learn in art school was that you need to have a product in order to be able to keep a roof over your head. So as an artist, like you have this artwork that you want to make and that you want to create, but you need to have a marketable product in order for you to be able to sustain that. So what we ended up doing is we were like, okay, teaching classes, it's a seasonal thing. And now we forecast that. And so we ended up looking for production contracts in order to fill that space of our slower months. Which then led us to, we started doing trade shows, which used to be a fantastic way to generate money. And now currently that's completely gone in that industry. And I don't know if it's to do with probably web sales and all of that, but we started going to trade shows and we started doing a lot of wholesale. And we also started working with Lincoln City and doing a contract through the city. And so that doing those things helps sustain us through those quieter months.
You guys do a lot of the floats for what they do out there in Lincoln City, right?
We do. We're one of the
That's
contractors for them. So yeah.
How many floats do you do for them every year?
It depends. So we have to bid every year, which is a normal thing to do in the art industry. And so we do anywhere from 300 to 600 a year for them.
That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were talking about like trade shows going down. I mean, so trade shows, so production and kind of retail, I guess, distribution becomes your supplement to the classes. But then when that goes down, I guess one question I have is, was that around COVID? Or, do you think that those events in general just aren't what they used to be?
COVID was actually one of the best times for glass. We had some of our best years during COVID. It was nuts. With the trade shows, I think it's because they're so expensive to do and they're so time consuming to do that people just didn't want to go to them anymore, because you could stream, you could do all of these sales online. And then another thing that happened as well is that China got really good at blowing glass. And so they were coming in and they were photographing the glass from the artist, and then they were going and reproducing it for pennies on the dollar. Wow. And then they were then selling it to all of the stores. And so the bottom fell out of the glass industry in that manner. So we were lucky because we have the classes and we've learned to market those classes really well now. And so we don't really have too much of a quiet season.
So then, you're still doing the glass business, but you have another business, your life coaching business.
Yes.
When did you start that?
I started my life coaching business 2 years ago. And that's been a huge learning curve because it's so different from doing the studio. So it's like I'm restarting my whole entrepreneurial can't say that word. I'm starting my whole new business journey again. There you go.
Yeah,
thank
business. You. That's how you say it. Yep. So what made you, that is a pretty big switch. How long were you thinking that you might want to get into coaching?
It was a pretty fast transition for me. It was kind of a life event that sparked me wanting to kind of change careers. But ultimately, I was getting pretty burnt out with glass. They say you should never do your hobby to generate your main income. And
Mhm.
I learned that really hard because art is a creative outlet for me. It's something that I absolutely love to do. And then doing it as a living, it got really hard and my love for it disappeared
Mhm.
and I wasn't getting fulfilled by it anymore. It's really hard on my body. And I just kind of was just like, I need a change. I need something different. And life coaching was something that I just kind of fell into. And it just kind of had a domino effect. I went to school and I did really well in school. And I graduated pretty quickly from that and moved into, I was doing both businesses at once and that wasn't sustainable for me. And so I took a step back from the studio.
So, yes, there are pretty obviously very different fields. I imagine there are some things that you learned. So, two things, right? You said when you were younger, when you got into glass, you were just younger and you just didn't know any better. So, you bought a glass shop. Now you're older and you know better. Some of that knowledge being from your last business, right? So, how does the experience as a business owner in the glass shop translating to what you're doing now as a coach?
Well, I learned that word of mouth is key. um, Bringing your best foot forward with regards to customer service and just being open to hearing people's feedback and how well that translates into business and return business. That marketing yourself is absolutely key to getting and maintaining business and just maintaining those relationships and following through so you get good reviews. And like I said, I just feel like word of mouth is so huge.
How do your days look? I mean, how do they look differently? I mean, so a glass shop is very center based, right? It's very location based, whereas coaching, I imagine you can do from wherever you want. I mean, you have a lot more control over that, right? You can't bring a glass studio anywhere you want to go. Uh,
Yeah,
how do your days look different now?
oh, they're so different. They're so, so different. So, I probably have a lot more freedom with coaching than I did with the glass studio because with the furnace always on, you always feel like you have to work,
Mm,
work, work, so you always
yeah.
have to be in the studio. So life coaching is really different. I can do it online. I can meet a person somewhere or, I can go to their home if that's what they're comfortable with, if they want to do in person, because some people just feel more comfortable. So it's very, very different. Physically, it's a lot less tasking, but
I'm
mentally,
sure.
life coaching is probably more tasking.
Yeah, you find yourself, you probably only have so many appointments, so many coaching appointments a day, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And, the similarities are interesting because blowing glass, physically your body, you need to rest and you need to rejuvenate. And with
Hmm.
life coaching, it's the same except for your mental health. You have to
Hmm.
reset, you have to have an outlet, you have to really take care of yourself so you can bring your best foot forward into your sessions with your clients.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, between, like, so let's say the glass business, strip away the glass shop, coaching, strip away the coaching, and then there's the business, right? There's the taxes, the bills, the payroll if you've got payroll. I mean, how do you, because the glass shop, it wasn't just you, but in your coaching business, currently it's just you, right? How do you manage kind of all that, all the skeleton of the business, I guess you could say?
It just kind of followed through. I was doing all of that with the glass studio and I did it for years. And so that's just a skill that I brought through with me. I'm very good at just managing my hours and knowing that these are going to be my office hours and these are the things that I need to do. But I've also learned that I can't do everything on my own. And so I've got myself a business coach, and that really helps. And it keeps me accountable, it keeps me on point. And then using a bookkeeper to help me with my books and project my finances and all of that. And so that is one of the big things that I brought through from the glass studio. And actually doing the life coaching, it's a lot easier than the glass blowing studio because the glass blowing studio, you have product and you have inventory and you have equipment. And so that was far more complicated. Whereas doing the life coaching, everything has just simplified down. So in that aspect, it's just way easier to manage.
Is there something on the business, again, the business structure of things, that if you had to pick one thing that would have made a huge difference had you learned it much earlier?
Just keep up on your books. Keep up on your books. And I was really bad at that when I first started with the glass blowing studio. And projecting bills, just really keeping on top of all of that definitely, as a young 20 something, I was just wanted to be in the glass shop, just blowing glass. I really didn't want to do the admin side of things. And I learned pretty quickly that the admin side of things, it's so, so important. Keep on top of it. Don't procrastinate. Even though it doesn't feel good to do or you don't like doing it, sit down and do it, because you're going to feel so much better towards the end of the year when you have all of that done.
I mean, a lot of it is just keeping track of, where the money's coming from and where the money's going, right? And so
Yeah.
transactions, and yeah, I've experienced that. So the longer you wait to reconcile all that and to kind of just keep track of all of that, the more things there are that you've now got to clean up. And that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah. And even like if you don't keep on top of it, there was so many little things in the glass studio that I could have that were added up expenses that, just kind of got lost in the flow of things because I was only doing my books, every quarter instead of every month. So
Is there something about running a business that you love that you just had no idea was coming, or like something you really just didn't expect that has really brought you a lot of joy in your business, in either business?
yeah, actually having the autonomy and of my own time and being able to create my own schedule, especially being a mom and being from Ireland, being able to go home for 3 weeks out of the year and not have to worry about taking time off or all of that kind of thing, or if my kiddo is sick, I'm just able to not work that day because I work for myself, and being able to write my own schedule. The freedom of that choice is absolutely, like, I love it. It's one of the biggest things as
Mhm.
a business owner for me that I absolutely love. But the flip side to that is, when you're not working, you're
Mhm.
not making money. And so
Mhm.
it's, finding that balance. And then also giving yourself permission to actually take the time off, that you don't always have to be working. You don't always have to have
Right.
nose to the grindstone, that it's absolutely okay to take time off.
I think that's one of the most, I don't know if it's misunderstood things I think about owning a business, is that people think you have all the time in the world and you can do whatever you want. And it's just that you have the same amount of time. You can do whatever you want. And so you have the freedom over what you do with your time, but then you also, it's like the Spider-Man quote, but you also have, it's like comes great responsibility. You have the responsibility over your time. And I think that's the part that a lot of people, I don't know, it takes a while to learn.
Hmm.
Because I think when you don't own the business, when you are working on tasks with somebody else or for another company or someone else's company, they're responsible for your time, at least in part, right? So they're helping you figure out what to do and what to spend your time on. And they've already kind of figured out what's going to be productive, the most productive way to spend for you to spend your time. When you're in charge or when you own the business, yeah, you can go away for 3 weeks, but I'm sure you plan a lot for that. And you take responsibility for what does or doesn't happen during those 3 weeks too.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that was another thing that I had to work on. And it's like, it's still something I'm really bad at, is that I feel like I'm always working. I'm always on, and I need to find a better balance for that. When I was working at the glass studio, my cell phone was the phone for the studio. And so people will call all the time, 7 days a week, all hours of the day, trying to book classes or, just get information about the studio. And I would always answer those calls. I would never not want to answer that call because it's a lead and I want to make sure that that lead got generated into business. And so the same is, with life coaching, I'm always, I'll always check my email. I'll always respond. And so, yes, I might take, 3 weeks off to go home to Ireland, but I'm probably still working. Like I went away on vacation, in November, and I worked. I did life coaching sessions. So I guess it's, I'm still trying to find that balance, but yeah.
So if you think about where you are right now in your business and things are going well for you, and you kind of compare that to what maybe was the most challenging time, whenever that would have been during your previous business, what would you tell yourself then about what you're doing now?
Just keep going. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. And there's going to be times where you go, why on earth am I doing this? But just keep persevering. Just keep going. Just keep doing the work and everything will work out. And also to reach out and ask for help. It is okay to reach out and ask for help. You don't have to know how to do it all. It's impossible to know how to do it all. To just be around other people in business and you'll learn from them.
Yeah. So who inspires you in business, I guess, from an entrepreneur standpoint?
Lots of different people, really, a lot of people that I've met in the BNI group actually have inspired me. My business coach is really inspiring to me. And so what's interesting is when I ran the glassblowing studio, I wasn't really around other people who were in business, and this whole part of being an entrepreneur wasn't even on my radar. And so this is just kind of a realm or a community that I'm getting into, and really seeing a lot of the people in my networking groups, how involved they are in the community, how much work they put into creating a network and creating a business community. Like, that's really inspiring to me. And so kind of my BNI group as a whole has really changed me as a person and have changed how I do business. And it's pushing me to do more for myself and my business. I think it's been interesting because I think the biggest thing for me is looking back. I kind of thought, oh, the business will just come to me, right? But that isn't the case at all. And you see all of these influencers on, on Instagram and on TikTok, and you think, oh, they just got really lucky, right? Business just started happening for them. But that is not the truth at all. There's so much hard work going on in the background that they've done to get to that point. And so that's really something that I'm learning now. And it's really, really inspiring.
I mean, you work hard. It's been years, right? That you work to get where you are. What do you do to
Yeah.
celebrate your success, or what you might even call whatever you might call success? What do you do to celebrate?
I take some time for myself. I disappear into the mountains for a couple of days. I rent a cabin. I just go by myself. I go on my favorite hikes. I decompress. I turn my phone off, and that's my reward to myself.
You talked about kind of getting a little burnout on glass blowing when you
Hmm.
gave your business self to that, right? You spend your work hours on that. Have you found since starting your life coaching business that you've been able to rediscover passion, even whether it be glass blowing or just art, kind of getting back into art in general?
Yeah, big time. I still blow glass. And I step in and teach, and I really love doing it now. And I have this joy in it that I didn't have before because I'm not doing it all the time and it's not kind of monotonous.
Mhm.
And even just other creative outlets, I've started drawing again, and I have all of these ideas of things I want to do. I started weaving again, and it makes me, it's that
That's
joy.
cool.
Yeah. So it's been great.
Did you know that my degree is, I think I told you, I have a degree in graphic design myself.
Really? How did you
Yeah.
end up in insurance?
Ah, I'm asking the questions. Well, part of it is like what you say, right? Like insurance isn't anybody's hobby.
Yeah.
And so this is, my job and my hobbies are quite separate.
Yeah.
So if you couldn't be a life coach and you couldn't go back to glass, what type of business would you start?
So no art at all. All art is off the table.
Yeah, you said it. So yeah.
Okay. I would be a real estate agent. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I love doing sales. I love doing sales. And I love houses. And I guess it's a bit of a cheat, right? Because I love design.
Uh,
So one of my jobs in between blowing glass, but there was a couple of years after I had my son where I was like, I don't want to work for myself anymore. I just want a guaranteed paycheck. I want to have that stability. And so I ended up doing interior design and architectural drafting for a construction company. And I loved it. And one of my favorite things about it was I'd go in, prospective buyers would go in and look at a house, and I'd walk through the house and I would, let them know what we could do and how much value we could add. And I loved it. So I think if I could go back and do anything, I'd be a real estate agent or a vet. I don't know.
or a vet. Well, you're going all
Yeah.
the way back to like third grade.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. You have a neat story. I think it's in a lot of ways it's unique. And I think a lot of ways we've all kind of gone through the same stuff and we go through the same stuff. And so it's important for people to know that.
Yeah. I mean, I look back at it and go, oh, I was nuts. Like, I cannot believe we did what we did. But, at the age of 24, the risk part of my brain was just being developed. If it had been a couple of years later, I probably would have went, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
I think at 24, I was making pizzas. So good for you.
Really?
I think, and yeah, I probably had dreams of owning a pizza place someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny. That's good for you guys. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we did it and it's still here. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm glad we did it. And,
Hmm.
there's so many things that I'd go back and do differently. So, but, I guess that's what I'm doing now, right?
Yeah, that's cool.